All right. So this is wonderful. I am really excited to connect with you. Number one, I love media. So just like this is my passion. So to be able to talk to people like you is
Definitely.
just like the icing on the cake for me. I just finished at the trainer, so I probably look like I'm dying.
Look,
Uh,
I just walked some dogs, so me too. So we one and the same, but we one and the
uh,
same.
I was texting my trainer last night, like, is it Wi-Fi at the gym? Like, I got to do this stream, and I don't want to have to shoot all the way across town and try to get there before 10:30 and all that fast. But this is really dope. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yes, thank
It's
you.
really good to learn about you. And like this, I think why this opportunity is so good for me as well is because I don't really get to sit and watch a whole lot of TV.
Right.
So to be honest, like I hate to say it, but like I until I knew that I was going to be talking to you, I had no idea, or like I didn't know about 60 days in. But
Mhm.
I find it really interesting. Like I like these types of shows, and then
Right.
you do a lot with, obviously you're a philanthropist,
Correct.
so you do a lot of things that are centered around celiac disease. And I
Mhm.
don't have celiac disease, but I have lupus. So
Okay.
I
Okay.
change a lot of I have changed a lot of my diet and whatnot based
Mhm.
on the fact that I have lupus and I'm a male,
Yeah.
and it affects everybody differently. And
Right.
me changing my diet has really helped in terms of me not having so many flares, which I think I'm in the
Mhm.
midst of or the start of one right now.
Yeah.
And they're like few and far between for me, which is like a huge blessing. Like I'm only maybe 6 years in with being diagnosed with lupus, but
Okay.
I do very well with it. But I have
Good.
a lot of interest centered around that, and then celiac disease too, because obviously having that, you have to really maintain your diet and
Yeah.
that type of stuff so that you are living in tip top shape. So
Yeah.
I'll have you talk all about that, and then the many things that you have going on because you are booked and busy. So I think first and foremost, I want to know where this name came from, Drama Queen.
Well, I started acting in theater back in '97,
Okay,
and I was a nun in The Sound of Music.
okay,
As crazy and wild as people think I am, I was a nun, and it was just something that I kind of enjoyed doing. I did it in college. I interned at Disney World doing
oh.
acting. I did some work with Tom Joyner, been on Family Feud.
Oh, listen, I need to know you anyway. If you work with Tom Joyner, I'm trying. I said he ended his show way too soon.
I know it was, yeah. So drama queen comes from the drama aspect. Even as a writer, even though people find me comical, and I've done the stand up comedy, I've taken the comedy classes. It's more the drama that I like to perform. I like to write. And so when I became a member of the first and finest sorority of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated,
Okay.
that was my line name was Drama Queen. And so originally everything was under my first name, but when I decided to go in 60 days in, they wanted us to kind of hide some stuff and change some stuff because we didn't know
Right.
how everything was going to be.
Right.
And so it was kind of at that time that I rebranded myself, and I said, before the show, before I even taped the show, before I even knew that people were going to consider me a drama queen from the show,
Right.
it's just my line name. I love doing theater. I do, films, commercials, and I write, direct, and produce as well. So
I think that's
it's
dope.
just fitting.
Yeah, that's dope. What was your take on, I guess, the whole aspect of reality TV? And
Being a part of a show. So here's the funny part. I'm not going to say the name of the show, but the day that I signed the contract for 60 Days In, I got a call from another show. So clearly I guess, reality TV gold, I guess. And it it said reality TV where 60 Days In said docuseries.
Right.
So in my mind, I'm thinking docuseries is going to be more educational.
Right.
It's going to be more focused on why I'm going in there. It's going to probably focus more on the celiac aspect, the health
Right.
aspect. This is A&E. They do, different documentaries. And so I made the decision to do the docuseries. What I've learned, docuseries, reality, it's all
All
one
the
and the
same.
same.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's just one sounds better than the other.
Yeah.
The thing about it for me is it changes the way that I look at TV. So, I've talked to, like, for example, one of my shows that I like to watch is Love and Marriage Huntsville.
Okay.
And so Melanie is my sorority sister. And so I've reached out to her and I've talked to her a couple times on social media. And, you think these people because you see them on TV. And it's like being a part of a show and realizing that you see that much of my
Of who they
story
are.
and my personality, it really it woke me up and made me realize that, especially if it's a show that's one season. Now, if you're on 10 seasons and your personality is just the same thing, that's just who you are. That is either who you are or the role that you were made to play. But that's the other thing that I've learned in reality is when they cast, being a producer now, having my own production company, when you cast, you want to cast people that are going to be controversial.
Right.
You want to cast people that are going to conflict with one another because you want to make the show entertaining because we're in a new age. People aren't turning on the TV to get educated. They turn on to see the latest gossip, who getting their butt beat, who getting their wig snatched, who sleeping with who. That's what they want to see. And so being that that's the case, I've learned that that's really what reality TV shows you.
Right.
And it's up to you as a person involved in the reality show to really let people know, connect with the audience and let them know, hey, that's not true. I did it a little late because I was pissed off, but now the thing about it is, the other thing I will say I learned about reality TV is I still think I'm just Shanese.
Right.
But it's been times I go out, I'm in a rush, and somebody's like, oh my God, can I get a picture with you? And I'm like,
yeah,
I really ain't feeling like doing this. I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
This is the industry that I'm in. This is something that I decided to do to open myself up. I see people and they were like, dang, your feet was swollen. How your feet doing? So it's like you really have given up your privacy and you got to take the good with the bad,
Right.
And that was kind of some of my takeaways from being a part of a reality show.
Do you think there's any changing that aspect of how, obviously the drama is what sells. So that's what people are really looking for when they look at whether it's Love and Marriage Huntsville or whether they look at the Housewives of Atlanta or which I watched the Housewives of Atlanta. But on the opposite side of the scale, I think that I have pushed so hard in media to do the positive and kind of the more own TV type of stuff or whatever.
Yes.
So I think in that theory, I've created my own platforms because I don't want to work for nobody. Well, number one, I don't want to work for nobody else no more.
That part.
So, I'm working for me. But it's hard. Like when I tell you I've been doing media for 20 years and I talk to all the same people. So I go out and cover whether it's BET or Essence Fest or which Essence is in another week or 2 weeks or it's just like it's hard though because there's people who want that, but it's like how do you reach those people? So do you think that will ever change?
I think that you still have some people that crave that. So I think it's about having a mixture of really a little bit of both. So like
balance.
So for example, my production company, our mission statement is to empower, to inspire, to educate, and then lastly to entertain. So I'm going to entertain you, but I want you to be educated. I want you to be inspired. I want you to be empowered. And I think that if we move more towards that way with people
Mhm.
creating content, because I think these new, especially the millennials, they don't understand and respect that. I came from an age of watching like Different World and, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
and that made me want to go to college and be in a sorority. It was like that positivity. I think that they don't crave it because they haven't had it and they don't know that they need it
right.
and that they miss it because everything is about ratchet TV. Now, don't get it twisted. I watch ratchet TV. I
Yeah,
love ratchet TV. But there's a time and place for it for me. I just think that we are slowly going there. We're gonna just have to be the ones that create the content and know that we may not reach the millions because that's not what they want. But I think eventually,
absolutely.
I think we'll get there. I think we'll get there.
Yeah, I do
We just
think
have to
that,
spread
like,
our ideas.
I'm always optimistic. I think we definitely more brands like what you have and what you're doing with your production company and whatnot. I think that we
Mhm.
definitely are closer, to getting to that place. But I really want you to talk about 60 Days In for the people who
Okay.
don't really know about it. And I'm kind of in that place now where I want to go back and binge watch it because I'm really, really interested in that.
Yeah, it's crazy because, and my manager's gonna be mad, but he wanted me to kind of go back and watch it and do some reaction videos because I wasn't really doing that at first, and I couldn't because I was under contract. We were under contract for a very long time, but it's so weird now that I'm going back. He's like, go back and do reaction videos. It's very difficult, reliving that. So for those that don't know, 60 Days In is a show that I was a part of. And originally, we filmed in 2019. The show aired in January of 2020 on A&E. Right now, I believe it's on Netflix and Hulu. And it is a show where everyday regular people go to jail. They volunteer to go to jail. Everybody has their own reason, their passion, their desire to be a part of this program and to bring awareness. Now, I was a fan of the show, but I was a fan of the show from my living room and not in the jail cell.
Right, right.
And but it's funny how when you pray, I'm a Christian, and so when you pray for things and you pray for guidance, how things that you say I'll never do or you don't understand how people do it, you become a part of that group of people. So love watching the show. I watched season 1 through 5. Miriam Ali, Muhammad Ali's daughter, was on the first season, so that kind of intrigued me to kind of watch the season. And I'm like, what are these people doing? And then I had the opportunity to be a part of it, and I always tell people, I said no, once they tell me what it was, because they don't tell you what it is. They can't advertise and say, hey, you want to go to jail for 60 days in, because then everybody knows that it's going to be taping, and then you have you have safety and security concerns. So they have to be very vague with their casting. Um, so once I kind of saw what it was, it was vague, and I applied, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. And they
Like,
tell me,
how does that, since they can't really tell you all of the
mhm,
details, like how do they
how do
cast you?
they advertise?
Yeah.
So they have stuff on different, like I'm a part of different casting groups on Facebook. I know one girl saw something on Craigslist. And so the particular one that I saw was like, are you are you a person that likes to fight for people? Do you have like strong opinionated views? Are you a vocal person?
Right.
And all of those questions they were asking, I'm like, yep, 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 yep,
Right.
that meets me. And do you have a big personality? And I was like, those things all fit me. And so I've always been a fighter for the people. Before moving to Georgia, where I'm at now, I was an educator working with at-risk youth. I ran an alternative school program for youth 17 to 20. And so when I decided to go into education, I took a huge pay cut because I'm just a fighter for the people, and I want to
Yeah.
help the community grow. I don't want to be a part of the people that's always complaining. I want to be a part of the people that's finding solutions.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, yeah, it's crazy that this opportunity presented itself. And I said no many times. I started talking to them. It was let me see. It's about a 6-month process. I said no about 3 times. I was like, nope, nope, I'm good. I'm good. Deuces. Nope.
Right.
But and they're like, well, just think about it. And then they got uncomfortable because when I first told them that I had celiac disease, they didn't know what celiac was. So I told them, my concern is when you go to jail, what do they say that they feed you? Bread and water. Well, bread is gluten. I have a celiac intolerance, not
Right. And
sensitivity.
you can't do,
So I can't do that.
and
So
that's
I
that's
start,
really important. Like even on the lupus side, like doing
yeah,
gluten-free stuff helps a whole lot.
yeah. I mean, it even having I developed Graves' disease while I was in jail because of the poor nutrition, and my feet were swollen and everything, and so it's just weird that as a person that has Graves' disease, one of the things that they say is to try to eat gluten free, and I'm like, I'm already doing that. So, but yeah, so basically, it's I decided to volunteer for season 6 in Gadsden, Alabama, at the Etowah County Detention Center. Of course, the season that I decided to volunteer would be the season that had 212 locks that did not work on the doors. Of course, the season that I decided to be a part of was the season where the previous sheriff stole the food budget, and food was already an issue for people that did not have food intolerances. Of course, the season that I decided to be on was the season that had over 1 ton of contraband found. So it was, yeah, it was. I almost tapped out in training. I'm gonna tell you, like they show you all of the, the contraband and the weapons that people make and the drugs, and they're telling you these stories about people getting shanked and killed and all of that from CO. I was like, oh no, I'm good. I'm going back home. I'm good. I can go home and eat what I want to. I can be safe. I ain't got to worry about Big Bertha trying to take my cookies.
Right.
Like I'm good. But it was a different experience. I am a different person because of it, and I
Yeah.
don't regret it at
Like,
all.
do they? I think kind of some of the general questions that people would have is like, do they know that you're filming when you're in there, or are you in general population, or what are the other inmates like? How are they looking at this?
So let me tell you, everybody, I had put this on my Instagram page the other day because people were like, so did you like spend the night in the jail? And I'm like, yeah, I didn't get to go home.
Right.
Like I was a real inmate. So basically, as I told you, the previous sheriff, he was responsible for, I'm just going to give you an example, for stealing some of the food budget. So let's say, for example, that the state, these are just examples, the state gives you $10 per inmate per day for their food budget. So in Alabama, you can say, you know what, I'm going to use $3 a day per inmate for the food, and then I can pocket the $7 per day for the per inmate and pocket it. So that's
Mm.
essentially what happened with the previous sheriff, and he was able to purchase like a $750,000 beach house and another home, and so a lot of controversy, with him and the new sheriff that came in. So everyone thought that that is why they were filming, was because, okay, we have a new sheriff that's coming in. We need to see if the food is better. We need to see if the safety is better. We need to see if the doors now lock. We need to see if we have contraband. They hadn't searched that jail in, I think, over a year. So
Wow.
it was a lot of changes that had to occur. And so they didn't only take out the participants that were part of 60 Days In, they took out the other inmates that were in there. And not only did they do that, they filmed for much longer than 60 days. They were there way longer. So it was they were familiar with 60 Days In. I had, people that accused me of being on 60 Days In when I hung out with the other two girls. But once I kind of distanced myself and took on the persona of some of the students, that my alternative students that I taught, I
Right.
took on their persona. I didn't get accused so much.
Right.
It wasn't an issue. But I think that when you are in a small city like Gadsden, Alabama,
Mhm.
and you are a person that comes in there and you have all your teeth, and they know people, everybody knows each other, and you're in
Mhm.
and they're kind of skeptical. You
Right.
gotta you gotta be that crazy. They don't typically hire people that have a lot of acting background. They like to just hire
Right.
everyday regular people.
Right.
However, with me, they have the opportunity to have someone that's been an educator with at-risk youth and have dealt with kids that were in the
Right.
juvenile detention center, parents that were locked up. But I also had that training. I've been in acting for over 20 years. I am trained in acting. I've attended the Tasha Smith acting workshop. Like,
Wow.
I have an agent, I have a manager, I had a work teacher in Missouri, I had a teacher here. So I was able to really use those skills that I learned to really sell the story that I really am part of this. Because if they think that you are a part of anything and you don't belong, your safety
Mhm.
is in
Yeah.
jeopardy.
Yeah, for sure.
And so you have to have the right, and I tell this to everybody, in order to volunteer to go to jail, you got to have a little bit of crazy anyway.
Yeah.
And,
Hence the name DramaKueen. So I got you.
there you go. And so to sell the fact, like, I was meeting with my family for Father's Day. And the show aired right before COVID, and so I haven't hung around a lot of my family, and so we were talking about the show. And I was telling them, I talked about this in a comedy show where one of the inmates that was kind of big kind of confronted me because she thought I was on 60 Days In. And I had to think quick of how I could react in a way where it's not where I'm doing too much. Like, yeah, you overdoing it. But it's like, I think she might really be an inmate because she kind of cray.
Right.
And so it was just finding that balance and fitting in. I didn't expect that I would fit in. I would enjoy the inmates. I would miss the inmates. I would
Right.
miss some of the staff. So that's just kind of a snippet of the 60 Days In. Is I volunteered to go to jail. I slept in jail. I ate in jail. When I came in, a lot of people said, well, did you tell them that you had celiac? Absolutely. But they couldn't treat me any differently than they would another inmate. If they got me gluten-free food when I first got in, then that puts a target on my back. So they had to take me through the process of getting that. I had to wait to get my commissary.
Mm-hmm.
So I was treated like a regular inmate. Like, when I had to get butt naked, open my butt cheeks and cough. I had to go through all of that. And so I had to stay the night. I was telling my cousins, during intake, that's when it was real. Like, I'm really about to volunteer to go to jail.
Right.
And you see people being, brought in and out. And I'm like, I had to really remember why I did it. If I did not have celiac disease, I wouldn't have volunteered. If I did not have celiac disease, I wouldn't have made it as long as I did.
Right.
I did leave early, but I made a promise to my family. I said, there's only two reasons that I'll leave early. I'll leave early if I feel like my health is in jeopardy or my safety is in jeopardy.
Yeah.
And once my feet swole up like 3 times the size and I was having heart palpitations that woke me up out of my sleep, then I knew it was time for me to chuck the deuces and go home and see, about my health. But very interesting opportunity to learn more about the criminal justice system.
Yeah, absolutely.
See the stuff that I saw, hear the stuff that I saw, and realize that if I'm being completely honest, I still have trauma and triggers from the things that I saw and dealt with. So I can't imagine being in prison or jail and for years. Right. And then getting out and not having that support. I mean, even like my dad came to visit me for Father's Day, and I freaked this lady in the hotel out because my eyes just got big. I went to see my daddy, and I was just, my eyes got big, and she's like, "What's wrong?" And I just start pointing, and she's like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, the doors to the hotel. I said, I had to see what hotel I was in. I was like, we stayed in this hotel. We did our exit interviews there. Right. So when I got out of jail, that was the same brand of hotel that I stayed in. Wow. And so I started reminiscing about what I ate, when I got out of jail, and the conversation that I had when I did my exit interview, and just different sounds and different things. And, you know, yeah, it was just wow.
Yeah. Um, would you do it again?
No. Um,
No, I think I think that's really dope that you did it. Do you feel like you really changed anything just in terms of the system and how they treat people with, issues like celiac disease, or whether it's lupus, or hell, I mean anything else on top of that, cancer and
mhm. I do. The reason being, one, now Etowah County Detention Center, now in their jail and their facility and their cafeteria, because the inmates are what, who fix the food,
Mhm.
they now have a chart of, food allergies and intolerance, allergies, common allergies and things that people can't have.
Right.
So that definitely brought about awareness. I Every day in some aspect, whether it's social media, whether it's YouTube, whether it's in real life, I have people reach out to me that either have celiac, have family members that have celiac, and it makes them, think. And they're like, it makes me be more diligent about the things that I'm doing. And it makes them think about, hey, I need to be careful and make sure that I don't go to jail. And
Right.
even
Right.
something as simple as when I had my surgery in November, because of the Graves' disease that I developed in jail, um, one of the nurses watched me on the show, and it was crazy because they made sure that I had gluten free. Like it was important. Like it was notated. I had an allergy wristband on. Like they took it serious because they saw my journey. They knew the sacrifice that I made to bring awareness. And so I think that is slowly going to make a difference around the world. I
Yeah.
did an interview the other day with a Celiac Foundation, a nonprofit, and wanting to work with them and partner with them to do some different things and make sure we get the signage. One of the questions that I was asked when I told the correctional officer that I had celiac disease and I was allergic, she's like, well, I mean, do you have like a doctor's note? Yeah, I'm in jail. Let me
Right.
get in my skin pocket and grab
Right.
it out for you,
Right. Right.
But I'm thinking of and doing different things with trying to get a card, and where if you do get pulled over and you go to jail, you have that card and you can give it to the jail and say, hey, I have celiac disease. This is what it is. This is my doctor's number on here. Because how many people's number do you have memorized?
Absolutely. Absolutely. None now because of the
Of the
phones.
cell phones,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's thinking of going through that situation made me think like an inmate, but then be able to think like how I can help people
Right.
eliminate some of those issues that happened to me, while I was in jail. So I think that um I have a docu-series that I'm working on. It's called Autoimmune Diseases, No More Suffering in Silence. And so bringing the awareness not only to celiac disease, like you said, other autoimmune diseases, and what happens if you go in the system. One of the young ladies that we interviewed, she was a young girl, but she has an autoimmune disease where her blood has a problem clotting, and this is like a little like girl, so she can't go to recess, she can't ride a bike, she can't do the traditional things.
Right.
And so it's just bringing awareness where people, not only awareness to jails, but people often think, people like myself are always complaining because, well, no, I don't want to go. And it's like, it's a hassle. I don't want to come to your event because I don't know if you're going to have gluten-free food. I don't know if I'm going to have to go somewhere else. I don't know if I'm going to feel good, if I'm going to want to be there.
Yeah.
I don't know. And so it's a lot of times, excuse me, it's often just easier to say no and not go places. And people think that you're making excuses. And this gives people an opportunity. It's a lot of people. One of the most common things that people that have celiac have said to me is thank you, because people think that I'm exaggerating when I say different things, and
That
it's
part
like,
that part right there. And
yeah,
I say thank you even from the lupus standpoint of it, like
Mhm.
I say thank you because I remember I remember being sick and it starting off as it seemed like it was a cold,
Yeah.
like a summer cold, and it went on for like 6 months of going to urology and going
Yep.
to GI and going to uh, hematology
Yep.
and them trying to
Get
figure
all
out
of
what's
that.
going on and nobody not knowing anything.
Yep.
And I'm trying to remember. It was weird because I had switched jobs. I was trying the entrepreneurship thing at that point.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I had left my job and I didn't have the same primary care physician anymore because of
Mhm.
the insurance changing. So
Right.
I didn't have a PCP. And the first doctor I went to, ironically, asked me because she said that my ankles were swollen. And I was like, oh, I'm gaining weight, I'm getting fat or whatever. But she was like, does lupus run in your family? And at that point, I'm like, no, not that I know of. Well, fast forward, I eventually found out that so many people on my father's side had it. And
Wow.
people who I knew who had passed had it. And I had no clue. And then probably one of my closest cousins, she has rheumatoid, which is in the same
Mhm.
family of lupus.
Yep. Yep.
Um, it just was weird, like going to the doctors and them looking at you and talking to you like you crazy and like you lying. And
Yes.
I'm like, okay, I'm not lying. I'm really bleeding when I go to the bathroom. Like it's
Yes.
like I'm really bleeding from both
Yes.
ends. Like something going on.
They think
And
you're
then
exaggerating and
right,
you don't know your body. You're not with
you
yourself
think I'm a
100%
drug
of the
seeker. And I'm like, I don't want your pills. Like I just want to know what's going on. So it's like a lot of even the physicians need to be educated. Like I
Yes.
moved to Phoenix City, Alabama for about a year
Mhm.
because there's so much media in Atlanta, and I go to Atlanta so much that I wanted to
Right.
move closer. So a
Right.
hospital moved us down there, and I couldn't find a lupus doctor. I couldn't find I couldn't find nobody to save my life because all of the doctors down there that treat lupus, they're all 100 or 85 or they don't take new clients. They like
Right. Right. Right.
but they're like all 80 plus and they don't take new clients. So then they wanted me to go all the way to Emory, but I'm like, I live an hour and a half from Emory. Like I'm not going to Emory. So I mean, luckily the year that I lived down there, I didn't have any flares. And I think that
Wow.
was
It's a
probably because
blessing.
of the heat.
Yeah.
Um, because as much as I hate heat, it helps,
Yeah.
as far as like the joint issues and all of that stuff. You really don't
Right.
have a lot of issues. Um, but yeah, it's hard to find, doctors like that. Rheumatologists, that's what I was trying to say. It's
Yeah.
hard to really find them that take new clients down there. And then
Right.
the ones that you do find, they still need to be educated because they really don't know anything. Like the doctor literally told me up here before I was diagnosed, like, oh, nothing's wrong. Not you're good. But then when I had somebody else read the chart, it actually said verbatim, autoimmune deficiency. And I'm like, okay, well, so that's how I ended up getting with rheumatology. Um, and then it being diagnosed. Like once they started doing the testing, like the ANA came back positive and like the protein was sky high and
Mhm.
it was like all of the telltale signs. And then it just took me back to that first doctor that
Yep.
said, does lupus run in the family? And that was somebody from, I mean, they wasn't American, but that was somebody from somewhere else who was like, does lupus run? So
Wow.
is there needs to be a lot of education on that side too. But I'm
Yeah.
grateful for people like you because I mean, obviously it takes guts to be able to go into a scenario like that because I could keep it all the way real. I wouldn't do it. Like when you think of the people that, and I mean, I grew up probably. I mean, I grew up in the hood, but on the same token, I'm like, for somebody that has to obviously adapt and fit in, and I probably would have got shanked or something. I don't know. So
Yeah, you know what? It is it's a lot and it's crazy because people that know me, I remember I would get phone calls and they was like, I know you. Like, soon as you walked in, like, I'm looking, I'm like, I need to identify where all the exits are. I
Right.
need to do this. Like, I had already did my research before I
Yeah.
went. Like, I had already looked up because I was there for a minute. I had looked up like what inmates did what. So I was like, okay, let me stay away from the killers. Let me stay away from this person. This person
Right.
crazy.
Right.
Don't go there. Don't have no issues. But yeah, no, it's you know what? I think that I would have probably said the same thing five years ago,
Yeah.
10 years ago. I'd be like,
Yeah.
nope, nope, wouldn't have did it. But I think that we sometimes that's why I'm done saying never, because what really solidified the decision for me was reading about other inmates that had celiac disease in the prison system, in the jail system, that almost died and nobody took them serious, because this is a demographic of people that really, if I'm honest, nobody cares about. I mean, you're a
They don't.
criminal, so it's like whatever. And so I was like, okay, you can't say you're a champion for the underdog and have an opportunity like this, having celiac disease, and you don't take it.
Right.
Like, you gotta take it. And you know, like you said, you wouldn't do it. You would be surprised. No, you probably wouldn't be surprised at how many people hit me up that had celiac. And I was like, nope, I wouldn't do it. Couldn't do it. They couldn't pay me enough money. They couldn't pay me $1 million. But I think that some people would. I think you just, when I start reading some of those stories, and I'm like, for some reason, this has been laid in my lap, and the show aired in 2020 and it's 2022. And what are the odds, because of COVID, that there's not a new season right now? So people are still binge watching the season. They're still talking about, like, my manager sent me a video like, dude, this video of you has 4.9 million views. Like, people get it. They understand, you know, they understand your mission and your purpose. And so it was difficult, but it definitely was, it's something that's still talked about. And that's the thing that I wanted, was I didn't want to be there in 2020 and in 2021
Right.
nobody's talking about it.
Right.
People are still talking
It's
about
too
it.
much.
They're thinking about it. You
Right.
know, they're talking to people. You know, I had a client, I dog walk sometimes, and I had a client that actually watched me on the show and was like, man, I was arguing with some people about you on Twitter. And I'm like, what?
Right.
But you know, it's
Nah.
we all have our purpose. And so
Yeah.
I guess that was my purpose. I didn't know that
Yeah.
was my purpose, but it was
I
my
think that's amazing, and it's good that you say that too, because a lot of times we really don't know, what our true purpose is,
mm-hmm.
and until it's presented to us, and then it's like,
Correct.
okay, I really have to do something. Now you said that you're doing a You said you're doing a documentary now,
Mm-hmm.
and that's based on just autoimmune diseases as a whole, or is it specifically for celiac disease?
It is, what we're doing is we just did a trailer because we are doing a Kickstarter campaign to raise money. It's going to be a 5-part docu-series where we cover 3 to 5 autoimmune diseases each episode. So
Okay.
it's to bring and it's not the common autoimmune diseases that I want to bring awareness. It's the uncommon ones. It's the And that's why it's called autoimmune diseases no more suffering in silence, because a lot of times, I'm in a lot of these groups having these autoimmune diseases. I'm in these different Facebook groups, and you learn a lot of things and you're like, man, I didn't know that,
Yeah.
because you're around other people. And so it's to be a support system, because originally when I decided to do the documentary with my production company, I didn't think about it from family aspect. And so then my mother was like, you know, what about looking at it from how it is to raise somebody that has an autoimmune disease? And I'm
Right.
like, I didn't think about that. So
Yeah.
yeah, we're gonna have experts, we're gonna have like hematologists, nutritionists, people that are actually suffering from autoimmune diseases, spouses, that's one of the things. How is it to be in a relationship with someone that suffers from an autoimmune disease or
Right.
multiple autoimmune diseases? And so just looking at it in its totality with multiple autoimmune diseases. And so that is why we want to try to do multiple episodes.
Okay. Keep me posted. I would love to participate in any way, shape, or form, or where you feel like you need somebody, especially on the lupus tip.
Okay,
If you
awesome.
guys
Yes.
do anything as far as that, I'm getting to a place where it's weird because when I was first diagnosed, I was in denial.
Yep.
Even though I knew something was wrong, and then they told me, I still was like, I'm fine.
Yep.
And I think that's probably when I had the most flares, is
Yeah.
when I was just like, I'm fine. And then it took, I remember I had a flare and like I had a real bad headache and like was dizzy and just stupid. Drove all the way home like 25, 30 minutes. And it was raining and I'm swerving on the highway and just stupid all the way. And then the next morning woke up in the car, but I was home. I was in the parking lot of the complex where I lived and just woke up the next, like I literally evidently parked and went to sleep. Car was still running. So I think it was that made me like, okay, I gotta get stuff together. Like I gotta really figure this out and all that. But then it's really only been the last year or more that I've been vocal about the fact that I have it.
Yeah.
So I think we need more people that, really speak on it and speak on the issues that you have and, how you take care of it. And
exactly.
And on all fronts, like not just with lupus, but definitely with celiac disease, because a lot of people don't really know about it. And the first thing you said, as far as gluten, like me starting to do the research, that's when I started, really realizing like, okay, it really is something to this gluten-free shit that everybody be talking about it before you just be like, oh, they crazy like that. But it really do make a difference though.
It does.
What other things do you have going on, obviously, to kind of champion the cause? And
so I am working on, I have 1,000,001 things going on, but one of the things I'm working on is a children's books.
Okay.
So, just like, growing
I'm moving just to plug the laptop up. I'm good.
That's okay. As an African American, growing up in the 80s and the 90s, I wanted to see Barbie dolls and dolls that look like me. Yeah. And so knowing the importance of that, I want kids that suffer from autoimmune diseases to see people like them in, books and featured in books. And it's so funny because one of my good friends, they have a family that has, this gluten intolerant, gluten sensitive. And so as I'm going through and I'm, developing the character for the book and I send her the character and she's like, oh my God, my kids love her. Like she is so cute. And, then she's telling me stuff like, one of her kids, the things that they talk about that bothers them the most is like going to a birthday party, is feeling like, I'm not gonna be able to eat any, cupcakes or cake, and I don't want to be a burden, and I don't want to have to ask anybody, so I bring my. So, it's working on that and just working with other organizations and seeing how I can help, how we can partner. Now I'm in a situation where in November of last year, I was able to have a total thyroidectomy. That's why you can kind of see that they took that.
It's interesting. It's interesting, not to cut you off, but it's interesting you note that because both my mother and my father have Graves' disease. My mother hers was overactive and my father's was underactive. They both had the surgery, and my sister has had the goiter. But they, I want to say they removed the goiter. She had some type of procedure, but actually, she had the full procedure too. So my mother, my father, and my sister. So
you understand, but it's crazy because when you have Graves' disease, that's with I was overactive. You know, my numbers were being in jail, getting out of jail. My numbers were 7 times higher than they should have been. And so it took me, they told me it was going to take 2 years to get my numbers low enough to have surgery. Well, I was diagnosed in January of 2020, and I was able to be very diligent in taking my medicine. I was extremely sick because the medicine made me sick, but I qualified in August of 21 to have the surgery, had the surgery scheduled in September, then COVID happened.
Yeah.
And so now I'm at the point where I'm transitioning from Graves' disease, which is the hyper, to Hashimoto's, which is the hypo. Right. And so when I say that my, you know, I've started kind of pointing myself as the autoimmune disease warrior because, you know, I've celiac disease, Graves' disease. Now I'm going to Hashimoto's. Then with the Graves' disease, I developed thyroid eye disease, where my eyes are getting smaller now, but like my eyes are really large, you know. So just going around and being a champion and trying to help people. You know, I have my YouTube channel, the DramaKueen vlog, where I put videos about my thyroid. I need to do some more videos about updates on the thyroidectomy, because there's a lot of things that I didn't know that I wish I knew. So I'm going to put the videos out there so people know if you have this surgery that this is something that you can deal with. Like some days now that I had my surgery, it's some days I can't walk because my magnesium is so low, right, and my joints lock up. And so just, you know, being that voice and realizing, because a lot of people are afraid, like you said, of talking about it, you know, and sharing their story.
I think my thing was, which is probably crazy, but I just was like, I don't want nobody looking at me any different than,
or treating you differently, like you're sick, right, you know. Yeah. And that's the thing is I was there too. But it's like, you know what? I always talk about, I think about Tracy Braxton. I think about Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah. And she was so nice. Like I had interviewed her a couple times, and
you suffer in silence because you don't want people to treat you different. You don't want people to look at you different. You don't want them to be like, oh, how are you doing this? Right. And like you said, it is a form of denial. For me, when I was diagnosed with celiac disease, I lost 90 pounds. My hair fell out. And I stopped having a cycle. And I'm like, okay, God has given me 3 different things to tell me something's wrong. Like I gotta take charge of my health. I gotta do something. Right. So it's just making sure, especially in the African American community, and I'm proud of you as a male, because a lot of men are afraid to go to the doctor. They don't want to get those tests ran. They don't want to talk about their health.
I'll be in that doctor.
And that's good. And that's why we need people like you.
I think it's more so because both of my parents worked in the hospital, like growing up. So we were constantly, like, we went to our doctor's appointments, and then obviously they both worked in the hospital, and then I ended up working in the hospital for 20 years. So like I don't know.
Time out. You talking about you done worked in the hospital for 20 years. You've been in media for 20 years, but you look like you're 20 years old. Get out of here with that.
Listen, tell your friends. Listen, it don't crack. It don't crack.
So don't, baby.
I think I've done really good to take care of myself. I mean, you know, I think we all have kind of those common issues. Like I was overweight pretty much all of my life. So at one point I was 325. I have lost a tremendous amount of weight multiple times. So we lose the weight and then we still not eating right and we gain it back. And I'm now in that place, more so because of the lupus, that I really pay more attention to it and try to keep it off. The weight that I have gained, I would say over the last 2 years, kind of was divorce.
That's COVID.
Well, but like divorce, depression, and just a lot of stuff behind that. So once I kind of got out of that kick, it was like, okay, I got to get this weight back off, because I've been off of blood pressure pills. Like I had high blood pressure. So I've been off of the pills, and I'm like, I don't want to get back on these blood pressure meds and all that stuff. So I do pretty good. I I probably got maybe about another 40 pounds I need to get off. And I've been in this trainer 5 days a week.
You
So
better
I'm
get
like,
it.
when I tell you I'm tired, but I'm blessed though. Like I'm
It's lifestyle changes. That's the thing
yeah,
is we as African Americans, we have to make those lifestyle changes. And sometimes we don't. Like during COVID,
yeah,
I had gained 3 stomachs and I was eating something and I lost the food and it was in between my stomachs. And I was like, whoa,
oh
hold
Lord.
up, hold up.
Yeah,
And it was like, I got to do something. And so I started doing dog walking because it's like, I love dogs. It's an opportunity for me to make some money. It's an opportunity for me to walk some dogs. It's an opportunity for me to exercise.
right.
And, I had gained to go to 60 days in. I'm going to tell you, I gained about 30 pounds because I said, I don't want nobody to think I'm no punk up in
Right.
here. Because I had a middle schooler that picked me up. And I was like, I don't want nobody thinking they can pick me up. So I gained weight. So it's like, I got to get this off of me. But the
Yeah.
lifestyle changes, yeah. I
I,
definitely want you to be a part of the docuseries because I think that African American men. I'm meeting a lot more African American men that are being diagnosed with autoimmune
right.
diseases. A lot of autoimmune diseases they do affect mostly women of color.
Absolutely.
And so, when I meet a young man, I'm like, what?
But
You got what?
there's so many men that have lupus and they don't talk about it.
Yeah.
So you really only hear about the women who have it. But there's a lot of men, who are dealing with lupus. But one other question I was going to ask
Sure.
you, because you mentioned, obviously COVID. I had COVID, and listen, I thought I was dead.
I
um,
bet.
6 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks down, like I thought I was dead. um,
Oh my God.
and I mean, I got through it, but it was rough though. But like, how? Number one, did you catch COVID? And even if not, like, how would that affect, with celiac disease?
So I am blessed to say that my friends laugh at me because I have a name for it. I said, baby, I'm a COVID virgin and I want to stay that way. Okay.
Right, right,
So
right,
how I did it honestly is I did not go anywhere because I know I have celiac disease, Graves disease. So really for the first 2 years, I didn't even go see my mother. I wouldn't. And if I would wear a mask, I had a face shield, I had 2 masks. I did not allow people in my house. Like I was just like, I'm not doing it. And I knew that I was working to get my numbers down and have surgery. So that was in the back of my mind. I can't be around you. I can't
right.
do this. I unfortunately, I guess it was a blessing and a curse because I lost my job due to COVID. So I was able to collect unemployment. And so it really allowed me an opportunity to just kind of stay at home
Mhm.
and stay away from people. Now I will tell you, people laugh at me. I went to an industry event here in Atlanta. I think it was March or April, and it was probably 50 to 75 people. And I was one of 2 people that had on a mask. Like
I,
they looking at me like I'm crazy. And I'm like, baby, look, I just had surgery.
you're right.
I ain't trying to die. And so I don't know. They say people with autoimmune diseases, you know, we're immune compromised, and so we deal with it differently.
Right.
What I will say, and this is just my story, my situation, my thoughts. What COVID did, I was not gonna get the vaccine because I was like, it's too many unknown things. I don't
Right.
know. But knowing that I have multiple autoimmune diseases, knowing that I had to have surgery and be hospitalized and stay in the hospital at least one night, um, I got the vaccine, I got the booster. Even when I stayed the night in the hospital, I slept in my mask. Like I am so diligent. When I go to my client's house, I still wear a mask. I wear a mask wherever I go. I have, in addition to my production company, I have another company, Classy Creations. I started making masks because I was like, you know what? If I gotta wear these masks, I'm gonna make sure they're cute. I'm gonna capitalize off of it, make me a little money. If I want to represent my sorority, my business, whatever.
I hate that we think.
Um,
I hate that we think the same way because when I tell you I bought so many masks off of Amazon, but I drive Uber, so ironically,
Yep.
most people thought that I caught it from driving Uber. I caught it at the hospital, working at the
Mm,
hospital. And yeah,
I can see that.
I caught it at work. And I can even take you back to where it happened. Like I know how I
The
got
day
it.
you got it.
Yeah. I know I knew because
Yeah.
being hard headed, I didn't have that mask on. And went home, came back a few days later, and then they told me the person that I followed that day was out with COVID. And as soon as they said that, I said, "Damn it, I'm gonna be sick." And lo and behold, the next day, I was sick, and
See.
thought it was a flare up for the lupus.
Mm-mm.
So because the symptoms kind of mirror,
Mm.
and that's the problem with lupus is that the symptoms really mirror a lot of other stuff. So I
And
thought
see,
that
that's what Graves' disease was. Same thing. Graves'
yeah,
disease, your throat
yeah,
scratchy, all of that.
yeah,
I'm like, I got that every day. Hell, I
yeah,
don't
yeah. So yeah, I was like, oh, I got a cold, and then this was Thursday. So then Friday, it seemed like it was getting better. So I'm like, okay, so I should be probably 100% by tomorrow. Well, Saturday came, and I was like falling over. Like I got to go to the hospital and see what's going on. My son was at my house because again, I'm divorced. So my son was at my house and had been there for 2 weeks. Um, but I went to the ER, didn't tell him because he's a worrier. So I went to the ER and then called his mother, like, I think I might have COVID. I'm at the hospital. Go get him. And he doesn't know I'm at the hospital. And then, when they ran the test and everything, I went home. Before 7 a.m. the next morning, the Board of Health had sent me a message and said that I had it. Like they send like a blanket message and say somebody in your house has COVID and all that. But I'm like, shit, I don't only want to live here. So I had it and was down. It was like 5 weeks. I was off from the hospital for like 5 weeks. Um, it's different for different people. So some people get it and they're kind of asymptomatic or they good for the 14 days or whatever. Like I was literally down, like heart beating fast, couldn't
know.
hardly breathe. I almost went back to the hospital, but I was scared to go back to the hospital because everybody that I've seen that goes back and gets on the ventilator does not make it.
They don't come out. Yeah.
So I was just like, I'm not going back to the hospital. And then it just kind of started, like you can feel when you're starting to get better. Um,
Right.
and it just kind of started getting a little bit better. And I'm like, okay, well, I could breathe a little bit easier now. So like, I'm good. I don't need to go back to the hospital, but definitely like the hospital after the 14 days, they don't care. And that's why I'm so glad I don't have no job no more. I just work for me, but they don't care. Like they basically was like, okay, well, the hospital standards say you got to come back to work. I'm not coming back to work. So you got to.
Yeah.
They don't care. Like
They
they were
don't.
nagging me, calling me every other day. Like, are you ready to come back to? I will let you know. Call my doctor. I will
Mm.
know when I'm coming back. But these jobs don't care.
They
Um,
don't. They
and I
don't.
mean, you would think that they would at least care a little bit since I got it there, but they don't care. They don't give you no money. They don't give you nothing. So like, luckily, like bill wise, all that stuff had been paid already anyway. So I was kind of good, but still though, But
Mm.
I don't know. But I appreciate you. Obviously, this stream has gone a whole lot longer than what it really was, what it probably was supposed to.
Look, that's okay. That's
I
okay.
appreciate you so much, like just for the opportunity overall. But obviously speaking about celiac disease as well, because I'm learning too, um,
Right.
and I think it helps for those who have that, even for those who have lupus, and it builds that awareness, and I
Exactly.
think that's what we need more of. Anything that I can help with or be a part of or do anything of, just let me know. I don't want a thing for it. I want to get more involved and be a part of this type of stuff. But
Now don't be acting like you don't know me, because if you do, I'm gonna be on StreamYard.
Well,
Like,
you can tell
remember?
me. Don't act like you don't know me.
I'll
Because
be like, on June 23rd, 2022 at 11:28 a.m. He said
right.
this. No, I'm just playing.
So you said you're in Georgia. Which part?
I'm in Atlanta.
Okay. I was just there 3 weeks ago. I did the it was called the Women's Expo at the Town
Yeah.
Center. So
Yes.
I went and did media coverage there. My cousin is Fantasia, so she was there doing her book signing.
Yes,
And,
you know what, I had tickets, but I can't do the crowds. I'm
yeah,
nervous
yeah.
about the crowds.
I had my mask on the whole time I was
I
at
was
there.
about to ask you if you had
Yeah,
your mask
I
on.
had when I tell you I got so many masks in the car.
Okay.
And then obviously because I drive Uber too, and I
Right.
drove down there from here, and I'm based in Cleveland, so
Okay.
I'm actually gonna be there. I try to come every 2 months. I've been looking for maybe a condo or a studio apartment or something down there just to kind of be able to come back and forth because my publicist is there. So
Okay.
usually she'll find stuff for me to do for about a week and I'll come down there for like a week or whatever. So I try to come every 2 months. I will be there the first week of August. I'm doing a couple events down there, but then my birthday is the 5th. And I'm
So
trying to
that
have
means you're a Leo.
I'm,
Okay.
yeah, but I'm trying to have like a skating party at Cascade, and like listen, I'm trying to turn up down there. But there's a trainer here in Cleveland named Philly Whedon, and I just launched a live show, almost like a Jimmy Kimmel type of show. But we did our first episode here last weekend, and he was on the show. So he's doing a battle of the trainers down there at the beginning of August. So that's what I'm coming down for. But then I'll do some other stuff and kind of party a little bit for my birthday and all that stuff. So, but I do come down usually every 2 months.
Yeah, we had to connect.
We definitely do. But thank you so much. People that want to keep up with you, know more about what you're doing for celiac disease and anything else, how can they find you?
So DramaKueen vlog, which I have listed here, and then DramaKueen 16, Facebook, Instagram.
I'll take you on Instagram when I posted about it.
Yeah. And they trying to get me on, what is it, TikTok stuff. I'm thinking about doing that.
I'm there, but I log on maybe every 2 or 3 weeks. And
I'm like, it's every other day is something. It's Clubhouse, this house,
right.
and this.
Right.
I feel old. So yes, DramaKueen vlog, DramaKueen 16. Follow me there. I usually try to post and do updates that way.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Anything that you really wanted to get out there with today? Look, we've been on for a whole hour. Like, I appreciate you so much.
No, I think we covered everything.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We definitely have to do this again. I'm new to YouTube. So we actually streamed on YouTube. I can't really tell where the visitors came from. Like, I've been seeing people pop in, but I streamed on YouTube, on my Facebook, and then I have a Facebook for the company as well.
Oh, okay.
So it's streamed at 3 different places. So I can never really tell where. I just see the numbers going up and popping in and all that stuff. But I appreciate you so much. Like I said, anything that I could do, if it's anything you want me to run online or on social media, on the website, all you gotta do is say the word. I want to push this stuff. So all you gotta do is say the word. I'm on it.
I'm gonna be in touch.
Please do. So all right, thank you so much.
Thank you, sweetheart. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.